live right, cause it can't miss. All about the game, that's a cold switch. Serving up the truth, call it ruthless. Tune in and get your fix from Blake and Vish Sports.
Sunday. So I'm just gonna sit back. I'm gonna give him the floor and just hear his thoughts about how his Green Bay Packers looked that sunny day in Jacksonville. I mean, against the New Orleans Saints, because that was not what any of us expected.
No. And I will say before we start, the Saints were pushing for the game to be in Jacksonville because in Aaron Rodgers' career, they've struggled in Jacksonville and just Florida in general, which don't know why. It's such a weird thing. It's kind of like the Patriots too. Like the Patriots with Brady were like 500 at Hard Rock against the Dolphins. It didn't matter how good they were, just for whatever reason in a summer, like near summer, they would lose. So maybe it's something with that. I don't know, but just going off of this, and I know LaFleur kind of after the game was saying a lot of the responsibilities on him. Should have ran the ball more. Agreed with that. For whatever reason, A.J. Dillon looked good. They just didn't want to give him the ball. They kind of abandoned Aaron Jones early too. The only good thing on offense for the Packers was Elton Jenkins. And Elton Jenkins he played left tackle. The dude can play anywhere on the O-line. Like this dude is going to get paid a lot, but he looked fantastic. Rodgers just looked in general. Maybe it was the offseason, maybe it was Jacksonville, but something just seemed off. The throw into it wasn't double coverage. It ended up being double coverage, but he didn't think it was double coverage, the Williams interception. And then the one where, usually you'd see him take a sack, right? And he stepped up, threw it behind, resulted in an interception, just very un-Aaron Rodgers-like. He has as many interceptions in week one as he had all of last year. Or not all of last year, but 40% of last year, which is kind of hard to believe, 2 to 5. So just at the end of the day, tough game for them. And just the defense too. I guess I can touch on that. So Joe Barry, the new DC, coming in, and it felt like I wanted Dom Capers back. And I never thought I would ever say that, because at least Dom Capers would sometimes get pressure with a blitz. He'd force a turnover. They'd allow a lot of points, of course, but sometimes they'd be good. It just felt like, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it just never felt like the Saints were being close to stopped. Like not once. No. Every time it would be second or third and short. Like there was never a negative play on first down or second down, is what it seemed. The only good person who I thought played best on the defense was Stokes and Jair. Hopefully Stokes is out there more. Kevin King somehow got burned by Dante Harris, who's like a third or fourth string on the Saints.
That was a dime from Jameis. That was a beauty.
I will say this. I thought Jameis's overall game, besides a few plays, was a little overrated because everything was open. But that touchdown pass to Juwan Johnson, the one back in the end zone, when he was getting tackled, was great. And then the bomb to Harris was also impressive. Otherwise, I thought like everyone was wide open for the most part. He used his legs really well. But that was just my overall take on the game. But I guess, Vish, what are your thoughts from an outsider on the whole Aaron Rodgers frame of it and people saying that it was a distraction and he could not have possibly been ready due to not being there?
I actually disagree with that. Like, okay, so was Aaron Rodgers bad in that game? Yeah, it was probably the worst game I've ever seen Aaron Rodgers play. Is that going to be the topic of conversation? Yes, probably. I mean, he definitely looked a little bit rattled by the pressure, and he definitely didn't look like he wanted to get hit, and he definitely did not, play up to his usual Aaron Rodgers standards. But my biggest takeaway was that the Packers got their butts handed to them on both line of scrimmages. The Saints defensive line absolutely dominated the Packers offensive line. The Packers defensive line got absolutely dominated by the Saints offensive line, who lost Eric McCoy early in that game. And that was a big difference. I mean, Jameis is standing in that pocket, and it's not like they have great receivers in New Orleans, especially without Michael Thomas. No. There's not a lot available for them. And, and the Packers have very good corners. Eric Stokes looked fast and explosive, and he was playing very physical when he played. Jair Alexander, obviously one of the best in the business. We know what he does. But Jameis had all day, and Jameis had all day to then move around, scramble. The Packers front four could do nothing. And Joe Barry, obviously, he is a little bit of old school coordinator in the sense that he comes from the Tampa Bay defenses that kind of segued Monty Kiffin into the Seattle defenses. So they believe in rushing 4 and dropping 7. And they played very vanilla defenses in terms of just rushing 4 and trying to create pressure and dropping 7. And that did not work because they could not get pressure on the quarterback. They got their butts handed to them on both lines of scrimmage, and I think that was the most important thing. And obviously, Rodgers played poorly. I think most people are going to sit and overanalyze Rodgers, what his personality did to the team. I really don't think those things made an impact, and I still think the Packers' overall outlook in the season is going to be fine because I just believe Rodgers will be a lot better. But the Packers' offensive line has not gotten their butt handed to them like that, maybe since the 2019 championship game. They got absolutely destroyed in this game. I mean, you talk about Elgton Jenkins playing well. The other 4 guys were not playing that well. And so I think that was probably my biggest takeaway. Maybe also, the Buccaneers, but I thought for the most part, they still weren't. He wasn't under pressure every play. This game, it felt like everything was so difficult. The Saints defense also, it is good. We underrate it every single year, but they have talent across the board. They have talent in their secondary. Demario Davis, monster, top 8, 7 middle linebacker in the NFL. And then their defensive line is one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. We just don't talk about it. But Jordan is amazing. Davenport's really good. So, yeah.
Also, just generally speaking, the Packers receivers were not getting a lick of separation. Like, not at all. Devontae was getting locked up pretty good by Lattimore. MVS and Lazard weren't getting any separation. Bobby Tonyan doesn't really get much separation to begin with. There wasn't anything coming out of the backfield necessarily. It just seemed off. And that's where, to your point, like, sure, you can say Rodgers looked rattled or whatever. He made a couple bad throws. But realistically, like, looking back, there was only a couple times where you could really blame him. And there was one, it was a mesh concept, and Aaron Jones was wide open on a drag, and he waited to throw it to him and then eventually got tackled, where if he would have threw it earlier, he would have got it. But it was very few and far between where you can say, all right, Rodgers, like, the guy was open, you missed him, or stuff along that sorts. But most of the time it was he's in the pocket. There's no one with any separation going on. Guys aren't getting schemed up, whatever it is. And he's either, throwing it out of bounds, taking a sack or whatever. And you can't – I just feel like you also can't blame him for that too. Like, if there's no one open and he's not throwing it, there's a reason he's not throwing it. So, yeah, I think you're right. It's maybe getting a little overblown. And I'm happy LaFleur, he came out and said, like, this is, my fault. I should have called a better game plan. He's not, passing off any blame, which I think is just a very mature thing of him to say.
I 100% agree. And so we got another topic to get into. So we're moving. We got 3 more topics. We got to talk about Joe Burrow, and then we got to talk about 2 NFC West teams that looked really, really good on Sunday. Actually, all 4 looked real good, but I didn't watch the Seattle-Indianapolis game that much. I'll wait to watch it a bit later. And so